Welcome to JLive. I'm Laura Mandel, J Arts Executive Director, and it's great to be with you for JLive, our series of bite-sized conversations about Jewish life and art with the best artists with Boston connections. Today, we are very lucky to be with Argentinian printmaker and mixed media artist, Sandra Mayo. Welcome, Sandra.
Thank you. I'm thrilled to be here.
Awesome. If you, of course, have questions during our conversation, please put them in the Q&A at the bottom of your screen, and we'll answer as many of them as time allows. So, Sandra, I love how central family is to your story, and that you even started by saying the woman singing in that song sounds like your grandmother.
Yes. So
you tell
with
us
that song, in a millisecond, you took me to my childhood and listening to my grandmother who talked like the lady in the song. I grew up in Buenos Aires, Argentina, eating trabadicos and borriquitas and pescado de tierra, eggplant with the agristada, a vinaigrette sauce. But actually all of my grandparents were immigrants. They all spoke with an accent, and to me was a given. I never was really aware of that until life took me to Israel, and I was the challah maker in the family. So before I left, I baked 20 challahs that my mother froze. And on the week number 20 in Israel, I called before Shabbat from Jerusalem, and it was a big drama because they were gonna eat the last challah, and I felt very badly that I abandoned them, that I left them. But then again, life took over, and several years after that, I found myself sitting in a psychology class for my master's degree at BU, learning about genograms. And I saw so clearly in black and white that I was a perfect fit for my family, and that actually I was doing what all of my grandparents did, which was to look for a better life and become immigrants.
Wow. It's interesting because you said something to me the other day about how you felt like you didn't fit in and how they let you go to Israel to study. And that must have been really something for you.
Yes, well, coming from a Sephardic woman, a Sephardic family, being a woman, that wasn't easy.
Wow. Sandra, would you walk us through some of the genograms and explain them to us?
Sure.
Great.
So a genogram is a family tree that comes to life because not only gives you the tree and who is connected to whom, but also tells you what is the communication style of the people, what is the emotional relationship within the people. So for example, if we look here, so can we go to the previous slide? Thank you. Yes. So if we look at the bottom to the right, a circle, that's the symbol for a woman. And on the left, we have a square, which is the symbol for a man. And these two people are attached together, meaning they cohabitate or they are married. And then underneath, we have different symbols. And this is just a quick overview because there are symbols for everything. But then we have a female, male, and unknown gender, pet, twins, and you name it. On the very far left, we have my symbols. So there's a square that is not perfectly square and a circle that is not perfectly a circle, because I use the genograms as a pictorial language for my art. And so this is more artistic, and it doesn't have to be perfect. Also, we are talking about people. And so I usually use Indian ink or Chinese ink to draw the genograms, and then I blow them up so we can have a different texture. And it's not just a line, but it's a heavy line. It has a lot of power and weight on it. So now we can go to the next slide, and we will get to see some of the relationships within the people. So we have some examples of harmony, very close, cut off, so there was a conflict there between these two people, hostile, verbal, emotional abuse, and I use that a lot for not only people, but within nations, when there is political abuse between nations, colonialism, etc. And we have also, of course, love. So it gets very complicated. And these are some examples of my work. This one, it's called State of Connection, and to me it's like a library of books, a library of family stories, and what happens when we embark in discovering these stories, and some of them are painful. When you learn that your grandfather was unfaithful to your grandmother, so what do you do? But overall, and when you see them all together, they are very colorful, because this is how our families are, very colorful. And I guess, so this is it's the same idea, but a little bit different, because this is about strata. So these are the stories, and what do we do with them through generations. So at the very bottom, we have some rhombuses, and it's because I took that genogram, that story, and I put it through the shredding machine, and I rearrange it, because I found that this is what we do many times with the stories, we rearrange them. Or for example, the orange story at the bottom is darker than the orange story at the top, because sometimes over generations the story becomes lighter, or we take some things out of the story. So this is what this piece represents. And we can go to the next piece. Yeah, this is something different, and it's to me it's the same silhouette, the same person here, that is surrounded by the genogram. And it's the day and night, the yin and yang, or the different parts of ourselves. And there is a dialogue with a little red figure that has the genogram embedded in the body. So this could be the little one in us, or our consciousness, or you should, or you didn't. And then, but the genogram is not, it's not embedded in the body of the figures, so, but they are surrounded by it. So I was playing with this idea.
You have a really special way of showing stories and emotions in ways that when you first look at your work, you know there's a lot there, but the layers as you explain it are really just amazing.
Thank you. This one is about the new generation. I did this when I was thinking about my sons, and I usually work in series, so we can have the other one too here. The other piece, thank you. So, and I call it the circus series, because in thinking about the new generation and how they develop their identity, and how do they juggle with all the values that we give to them. And in my case was the Argentinian values that we come from a very collectivistic society, and versus the American values that are more individualistic, and then the Jewish values, and then they have to become themselves. So what do they embrace? What do they reject? And how do we, as parents, can accompany them and support them when they say, no, thank you. This is very nice, but not for me, thank you.
I love how you said that. You speak such truth in your work. So I was intrigued by this image because I know research is such a central part of your work. Obviously, you're talking about layers of stories that don't just come to you. There's a lot of research that goes into these pieces. So tell us a little bit about this image and what your research is like.
Okay, so this image, and that's true, Laura. I do a lot of research for each of my pieces. I interview a lot of people. This one was inspired by a testimony that I attended, I believe in 2015, the testimony of Sarah Rose. I was visiting my family in Argentina, and Sarah is a Polish immigrant who survived the Holocaust, and she survived two major social traumas in her life. The Holocaust, and then she had a son, Daniel, who disappeared in the Argentinian dirty war. 30 years later. So and she's an incredible woman, and I was curious if other people had survived such traumas, and how do you do that? How do you survive such a terrible, terrible thing, like to lose your past and you lose your future? So I found another woman, Ruth Paradise, that she's a German woman, and she had a similar case. She lost her son Marcelo and her daughter-in-law Susana. And so this is my research. So I interview them, and I do qualitative research, and I wanted to see the parallels between the two women and what sustained them. And I know we don't have a lot of time, but I wanted to give you at least two things that they've told me, because this relates, of course, to COVID and the social trauma that the whole world is going through. So Sarah loves colors and flowers, and her house is full of flowers, even in the middle of the winter. Of course, the winter in Argentina is not like the winter here in Boston, but her granddaughter painted her living room wall with tulips, because this is her favorite flower. So imagine that she has the flowers and the colors that sustains her, and don't we have flowers too? Like, this is such a simple thing, right? So I took inspiration over the quarantine and all the COVID time. And for Ruth, she's a yoga teacher, and she does yoga for herself, but also she teaches others. And she says that by giving others and teaching others, she's giving herself. So I thought that these two very simple things are very powerful, and we all have them at hand.
It's really, really beautiful. And it's amazing to me that your work goes so far beyond what we see. Again, it's those layers, but these stories you're eliciting from these people are really moving. Really beautiful. So, okay, tell us a little bit about this piece that's behind you, since I know this is a current piece. And speaking of COVID and this difficult moment we're living in, tell us about what this is behind you.
Okay, let me see if we can share the screen.
There we go.
Yes. And then
that's it.
So we have a better picture of it.
Yes, just so everyone knows, this is what's right behind Sandra's shoulder, but we wanted to show you up close because there's such incredible detail in this piece.
Yes, so when COVID came, I decided I needed to document it. So I started, I did a print of the pandemic, the 1920 flu pandemic, and this is, it's hard to see, but this is Dr. Li in China, who was suspecting something was wrong and was happening. And then we have the virus here, that it's something like out of space. At the beginning, we didn't understand what is this, and what, like, it was so strange. And the theory is that maybe the pangolin, it's the pangolin here that transmitted the virus to the humans. And then it was maybe it's the bats, and from the bats went to the pangolin, and the pangolin to humans. And we were addicted to all the maps and the numbers, and where right was being transmitted from one country to the other, and it's gonna come to us. And in the meantime, we had a crisis with immigration here. So this is this piece about South America and North America. And here it's the symbol of abuse, as I said, and forced migration. So so that's about that. And then I wanted also to document the least successful countries and how did they deal with the virus, which is the US and Brazil and India. And then we had the Black Lives Matter movement. So I decided to do a piece about that, and these are all stitches. Again, it's hard to see, but it's stitched, and I left half of the triangle here, half of the piece empty, because I think we have an opportunity here to, how are we gonna tell the story? What do we do with the history, what happens, and the future? How are we writing the Black Matter life story? And then, so lots happening. And then we have the January 6th attack in the Congress. And so I made this piece with the, American flag, the shape, a different shape of the American flag, and then and this piece of the American flag floating. And to me personally, it was very emotional, and to me, I feel that like the American exceptionalism broke down when that happened. But that's personal, but I know many people felt that too. And then we didn't have much time to a quiet time or to rest, and then the vaccine was developed and was here. And so I have these little jars that they say they are COVID vaccine, but also ignorance vaccine and hate vaccine and we can be vaccinated with other stuff too. And the last piece of this tangram are these, for now, empty shapes, because this installation, it's gonna be a participatory one, meaning that people will have the opportunity, participants, to draw something, or to write, or to express their feelings, or whatever they want to do to contribute to their year, and now year and a half, and maybe 2 years of COVID.
Thank you for explaining that. I mean, what an incredible piece to track what we've all experienced over the course of this pandemic. I mean, it's really very moving, but also just really interesting to see how you experience different things as they were happening over time. Wow. Well, Sandra, it's hard to believe that 20 minutes has already flown by. I'm going to say two things. One is you have many, many compliments and fans out there right now. Fewer questions and more just compliments. So wanted to relay that. And the other thing before I let you go is I want to know who or what inspired you to become an artist?
Well, to become an artist or keep going, I would say. Like an event like this inspires me and gives me a lot of energy, because once you have the story, you have to bring it out there. It's very hard, and this is not out of kindness. I cannot hold these stories by myself. So the only thing I can do is to digest them and to do the research, digest them, and then share them with all of you.
And that is the real work of the artist. So
Yeah.
what a joy to have some time with you and to hear about your work. I love the tulips and the idea of just bringing beauty and things you love into your life. I love hearing your story of going through COVID through this piece and the genograms. You are really, really special, Sandra. Thank you so much for sharing us all with us.
Sure, thank you.
Absolutely. And for all of you out there, we will have more of her work coming at you through JArts, so please stay tuned. And of course, as you know, the work of JArts is only possible with generous community support from people like you. So if you are inspired by what you've seen today, I hope you will join us and make a gift to make future JLives and other programming possible. So thank you so much, Sandra. This has been so much fun and more to come.
Thank you.
We'll see you soon.